Hey y'all, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Sierra and I post videos on this channel every single Friday. I post Christian booktube content, so if you're into that kind of thing, I highly recommend pressing subscribe. Y'all, I am so excited for today's video. I obviously make videos about books like every single week because that's the whole point of this channel. But I have never made a video just about authors before, and I don't know why, but I'm like really excited to do it because I feel like oftentimes I know that I like just talk about the books and I don't talk about the wonderful authors behind the books. So I decided it could be fun to make a video telling you my 4 favorite Christian fiction authors and why I love them so much as like people and authors, like, you know, why their books really speak to me and why I gravitate towards them sometimes more often than finding new authors to read, because I do that way more than I should. A quick disclaimer before I get into the video. I have hardly skimmed the surface when it comes to all of the many Christian fiction authors out there. My goal this year and next year, and kind of like all the time, is to just keep reading new books, new authors, finding new genres that I like, new authors that I like. That's just my disclaimer, is that like from my very limited, honestly, experience with reading Christian fiction, these are the authors that I have found that I really enjoy, but that is not to say that I am closed to finding new favorite authors. So if I don't mention your favorite author, because I probably won't, drop them in the comments and I would love to check them out and read some of their books and tell you my thoughts on them in another video. To jump straight into it, I'd have to say probably my favorite author right now is Conlan Cosette. I have read almost all of her books. I've done a I did a whole video dedicated to the Cities of Refuge series by her. I absolutely adore her writing style. It is so unique, so interesting, like interesting in a really good way. It's so descriptive and captures the entire essence of whatever scene she's writing, whatever emotions and feelings that is going on inside of a character. Honestly, she doesn't repeat the same phrase over and over again unless it's written to like make a point, if that makes sense, I guess. Like she's always coming up with new, from what I've read, obviously, she's always coming up with new ways to describe something that's been described before. Her characters are just so rich, so deep, and even though they are set like in biblical times, because all of her books are biblical fiction, even though they are set in such a different culture, such a different time period from obviously like modern day readers, they're so relatable, and I can relate to those characters and see their good qualities and their bad qualities, and I love how she just makes them people, even though they're in a different time period completely with, you know, different social customs, a different culture, but we can still love them or hate them or whatever because they're people and she writes them as such. And again, I will just never get over her writing style. I will never stop raving about it. It's absolutely gorgeous and beautiful and wonderful. My next favorite author has to be Heidi Chevrolet. I have also read almost all of her books. She writes revolutionary time slip fiction, so like the historical is set in the Revolutionary War, except for her latest book that was set in the 1860s. And I quite enjoyed it. I do have 2 Read With Me vlogs for 2 of her different books, and I just love her writing style. It's so different than anything else I've read. I don't know how to describe it. Like sometimes it's simple, but like elevated simple, if that makes sense. I don't know how to say it. Like it's just so good, and her stories are also very real, very raw. That is a phrase that I use often when I'm talking about books I like, is very real and very raw. I love books like that. My favorite book by Heidi Chevrolet is The Hidden Side. I read that book in 2 days. It just captured my heart and my emotions so much. I couldn't put it down because the characters in that book were battling so much, like so many hardships. This goes for all of her books. The characters are going through really, really tough stuff. Like, she does not, there's no cliche or anything like tropey in her books. It's very real situations that like real people could face, real struggles, all of that kind of stuff. And that's one of the reasons I really love her characters and I can relate to them. Also, the theme of overcoming is very strong. Like, it's a very strong theme in all of her books, and I love that. It's so important, like, with the types of stories that she writes. So anyway, that's kind of getting into some of the weeds. That's why I really, really like her writing so much. It's just because it's real and raw, and the resolutions always amaze me. My next favorite author, probably tied with Heidi Chevrolet, is Melanie Dobson. Melanie Dobson writes World War II time slip fiction, and I just love it so much. Her latest book, I finished it not too long ago, The Curator's Daughter. Oh man, it was probably the best book she's written so far. And I have not read all of them. I have read every single one published since 2017, and then 1 or 2 before that they weren't quite my cup of tea, but for the most part, I have loved everything I have read from her. Her stories also aren't cliche at all, one of the reasons I love them. If you watch my channel at all, you also know that I am a literal sucker for World War II fiction, and I cannot resist it. If it's set in wartime, specifically World War II, I'm like, that's it, sold. I mean, I'll read the description of it, but you know, I'm more prone to buy it if I see it's set during World War II. And that is one of the reasons I found Melanie Dobson, is because I saw I read the description of the book and was like, oh, I really like this time period in history. And I just have fallen in love with her characters, her stories, the way she weaves the past and the present together, and especially in her latest book, showing how, I'm not really sure how I want to say it, but I guess basically that the threads of history, like, are still threads in, like, history that is being formed today. I'm not saying it very well, but kind of like the past continues on through the present, I guess. You just have to read her books to kind of understand what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I really, really love her and her books. The final author that I really enjoy is Francine Rivers. Her books are hit or miss. I've done a whole video on her. I've talked about it before, how I either really, really love one of her books or really, really don't like it. But I have to say, probably like 70% of her books I really, really like. And the reason I like them so much is because she also doesn't like shy away from really, really hard topics and struggles in a Christian life, and like temptations and trials, like really hard stuff is in her books, and that's kind of some of my draw to like all of these authors, is because they don't shy away from the hard stuff, and I really like deep books that are gonna like make me feel things and make me think. And every single book that I've loved from Francine Rivers has made me think and kind of like examine myself at certain times. So yeah, that's why I also really like her and would consider her one of my favorite authors. So those are my 4 favorite Christian fiction authors. I guess I can do like a short honorable mention for my favorite Christian nonfiction author, and that is Max Lucado. I have not read close to all of his books at all. I've read a couple of them and I've always enjoyed them so much. They've always been very inspirational. The way he writes and his like choice of words is, oh, it's just so good. It is like nonfiction that I would choose to read, and I think think most of y'all know by now I don't choose to read nonfiction basically ever. So those are my, I guess, 5 favorite Christian authors. 4 of them write fiction. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you've never read any of these authors, like obviously, duh, I want you to go read them. I will find each of their individual author websites and link those in the description if you want to go check them out individually, and then obviously they'll have their books listed on their website. That's always fun to peruse an author's website. I love learning more about the people who write some of my favorite books. And again, if I didn't mention your favorite author, or if you've never heard me talk about them in any of my videos, drop the recommendations in the comments, and I eat those up. Let me know your thoughts, and if you've read any of these authors and like them or don't like them, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week for whatever video that is. Until then, bye!